I feel the need to preface this entire review with one particular statement. Yeah, I did give this a fair shot. Now, just because my opinion might not be your opinion, doesn't mean that that didn't happen, just as a heads up. I feel the need to make that preface because I know for a fact this may end up being the single most downvoted video I ever make. And you know what's funny? I'm not even ready to get started on the bulk of it yet, because I feel like I need to confront a bold-faced lie. I was told when this series debuted on Netflix that it wasn't furry bullshit. In fact, I had people lose their damn minds, basically hammering on their keyboards that are encrusted with Cheeto dust, saying, yes, it is not furry bullshit. Insisting that it was a well-told story, despite the fact that there were anthropomorphic animals everywhere that wanted to fuck each other. Every single person who said it wasn't furry bullshit, you lied to my face. It was furry bullshit. And now that I've watched this show to completion, I am even more convinced than I was before. Yeah, I'm reviewing Beastars. I don't really know how to describe this show, mostly because I'm so frustrated about this whole process and how the show has been described to me, and how wrong every description was from the beginning. This is not a noir. Anybody who says this is a noir has never seen noir before. This is a stereotypical high school drama that is some of the dumbest, most melodramatic writing I've ever encountered. If this show was about humans, do you want to know what this would actually be called? Days of Our Lives. So, the truth of the matter is what this is an anime soap opera. Beastars is a show about a high school that is populated by anthropomorphic animals that are going through stereotypical high school drama. Now, that is not how the show tries to present itself at first, but that's what it's about. That's what actually happens. The majority of the time that I wasn't desiring to bludgeon my head into a brick wall was spent watching people minge about a play and then transition into a long drawn-out mess of will he or will he won't fuck the rabbit. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of me saying that, just so you know. The story follows the character of Legoshi, a teenage wolf who isn't as cool as Michael J. Fox. Okay, all jokes aside. He is an awkward drama nerd who likes to stay out of the spotlight and consistently struggles with the fact that he is a damn wolf and he wants to eat things. He goes to a high school that is constantly feeding carnivores, such as him, soy products and tofu. And I can't hear that sentence aloud and not think that this is the future that the denizens of San Francisco would like for the rest of the world. Either way, his struggles with his more animalistic nature lead him to an encounter with a tiny little rabbit that later on he realizes that he wants to fuck. From here, the story is primarily the same fucking thing over and over again. This is where I need to chastise people again. This entire show is built around the build-up to when a wolf is going to fuck a rabbit. And you're trying to tell me that this show isn't furry bullshit? I'm sorry, but you're full of it, and that's why I avoided this damn show for so long. The only reason I watched it is because somebody paid me to do it. So, I just wanted to say that everyone that tried to piss in my ear and tell me that it's raining can go engorge themselves on a cacophony of dicks. Now, don't get me wrong. This show would like you to think that it has more going on than it does. It actually starts off with an interesting bit of murder intrigue, then drops it 5 minutes in. And then another point, by the way, it picks it just back up again out of nowhere. There are scenes that distract from the main story to try to focus on other characters that, honestly, you're not going to give a rat's ass about because zero of them are endearing in any way, shape, or form, or even interesting. And the rest of the time, it's spent around the wolf wanting to fuck a rabbit. It's rather difficult to properly develop characters when the entire show is focused around a wolf trying to fuck a rabbit, as opposed to the intrigue of a murder mystery, or the personal struggles of the cast of characters, or anything along those lines. In fact, I'm going to be honest, the only character whose name I could remember was Legoshi, because he was the only one that had any fucking complication to him. Essentially, the point I'm trying to make is that this show doesn't know how to budget its fucking time. Its pacing sucks for the story that it's trying to tell, and it can't pick a lane for the life of it. If you're going to tell a story about murder mystery, if you're going to tell a story about interpersonal struggles and class struggles and things of that nature, and you're using the dichotomy of herbivore, omnivore, and predator, you need to do a little bit more than spend so much time on the lead character wanting to fuck a rabbit. Seriously, that's most of what it's spent there, and then randomly it inserts these little plot lines here and there that suddenly we're supposed to remember happened beforehand. It really just doesn't know what it wants to do, and it's incredibly frustrating to watch because of it. What makes it even worse is that this show comes across as incredibly pretentious, constantly trying to infuse more dramatic elements into a story when the story really is just as basic as a wolf trying to fuck a rabbit. There are many attempts made to characterize said rabbit, but the problem with the rabbit is the only characterization that she really gets is that she's a loner and that she's a slut. That's basically it. In fact, her first real reaction with our lead character Legoshi, within 5 minutes of conversation, she's trying to suck his dick. This chick is a hoe. And to be honest, it actually hurts Legoshi as a character for him chasing such an obvious slut. It makes him come across as incredibly shallow when the rest of the show is trying to portray a young man who is fighting his instincts as best he can in a reflection of what teenagers feel like they go through. In fact, any sort of mutual attraction between the two of them comes across as incredibly silly because it seems like any time that this rabbit gets a wafting of dick in front of her face, she immediately wants to jump on it and go to town. In essence, by characterizing the rabbit like a slut, the show kneecaps itself because the potential intimacy between the two comes across as meaningless. For our lead character, it's going to mean a lot because he's essentially giving his virginity to this girl. But for the girl, it's just another day ending in Y and it's another cock with some more hair on it. It makes all the lead character's attempts to protect her come across as shallow because he's just trying to get an easy lay instead of pursuing the girl as because he actually loves her. It's the old issue of the writer confusing love and lust, but the writer doesn't seem to understand that there is a difference between the two. The other problem that this show runs into is the principal issue when it comes to manga being translated into animated series sometimes. It violates the rule of show, don't tell. So, let me just say this. This, and what I'm about to say, is an indictment on the show, not the original manga. I didn't fucking read it. No, I'm not planning on doing so unless, again, somebody pays me. Now, before anyone tries to lecture me about adaptations and whatnot, let me say this. I'm a published comic book writer. I have also had lengthy discussions with other published comic book writers on the medium of publishing comic books. I know what I'm talking about here. I know what's necessary in the written medium that isn't necessary in the animated medium, so don't you fucking start with me. The fact of the matter is that certain descriptors and dialogue are completely unnecessary when you are in motion as opposed to still frames. If this really was a neo-noir piece, it would look at a movie like Drive or Only God Forgives, or even John Wick, and realize you don't have to explain the very things that can be seen and heard through animation and audio design. By the way, here's some compliments. The audio work within this show is very good. The cinematography is as well. Now, the cinematography is a dead giveaway that this is not a noir, but regardless, it's still done well. But the problem is that both of these advantages are wasted when you're constantly talking over something that would have much more impact simply by the imagery and sound design allowing to speak for themselves. So, once again, the show kneecaps itself. And that's the funny thing about this, and the absolute irony of me finally touching this show. People have been trying to get me to watch it for years, and someone finally paid me to do it. What did I find? That I was lied to, and that this was, at the end of the day, just a furry version of a daytime soap that wants to be something more than it is. And the big irony is it could have been. That's the funny thing. I can see where people like it. Honestly, I can see why people enjoy certain things about it, aside from the furry element. There could have been something interesting here, but the writer seems to be like they just weren't experienced enough to really put it together, and it just didn't meld. It's sort of like whenever you watch the show Forged in Fire and you hear the words that your forge weld didn't stick, That's basically what happens. They tried to merge all of this together, but there were so many imperfections that the final product falls apart under pressure. If this show didn't constantly drop storylines to pick them up later, or actually had characters that were interesting past the protagonist, or even had any sense of how animals work, I might have been able to see past the fact that this is furry wank bait. Let me leave you with this. The show is so up its own ass that it thought that stating that a rabbit's instinct is to jump into a wolf's mouth as they are about to have sex was supposed to be taken as a poignant statement. All it tells me, honestly, is that the writer, she had no clue what she was doing. As if everything else wasn't already evidence enough of that. So, enough of me roasting on this particular show. If you enjoyed the review, then head over to Indiegogo, check out my most recent comic book, Inglewood Book 2. It is live on Indiegogo. It is in demand, so you can pick up a copy, pick up 10 copies, so on and so forth. Pick up one to burn because you didn't like my review, whichever one you want to do. Either way, my name is Micah Curtis, your favorite vanilla gorilla. Have yourselves a great rest of your day.